5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Happy Monday, and off we go. First, I want to talk about my friend Tom Fishburne, and let's get over to that. Okay, and we got it queued up. If higher education marketed other products, and it goes, thanks for ordering our shoes. We've received your non-refundable deposit. By the way, our shoes are now online only. Same brand, same price, just virtual. You can only wear them online. Conveniently experience them digitally anywhere, like your high school or bedroom, for instance. And don't forget to share your shoe spirit on social media. So here's a person standing there with no shoes. Same experience, just no shoes. And this is sort of the logical extension of the Neoplatonic view that the virtual world is identical to the physical world, which it isn't. Which is why mail, direct mail, yes, you heard it right, direct mail is the best avenue to machine learning and AI. Prove me wrong. You can't. Because 90% of AI projects, especially in marketing, fail because they try this approach. We're going to send you virtual information with almost no engagement, and then we're going to try to figure out why you did what you did. Doesn't work. But let's go on and look at higher education, because Tom offers some additional comments, which I always like. The highest gross margin, universities are no longer nonprofits, but the highest gross margin luxury brands in the world. NYU Professor Scott Galloway wrote recently. Professor Galloway has been exploring the crisis of higher education in the United States, lately accelerated by the pandemic. Of all the wrecking ball implications of COVID-19 on brands, the impact on higher education is one of the most dramatic. Now, what you have to understand is that when we say the impact on higher education, we could easily mean that we can dramatically improve the economy by wiping out most universities. Why? Well, because we're basically funding propaganda organizations that tell us why they're so important. With the advent of student loans, of basically no default student loans, we've created this huge credit bubble, and we've eliminated almost all competition between higher education institutions. There's no longer any they don't have to fight it for the money, because everybody can just get an easy loan that they can never get out of, no matter how many times they try to declare bankruptcy or anything else. It's the one uncollateralized loan in the world. Why? Because banks know there's very little, the borrower has no assets and is basically borrowing against the future value of their education, which has little or no value. So higher education tuitions have skyrocketed. I was going to go look it up, but when I went to the University of Wisconsin, I think it was $1,800 a semester for tuition. Now, the housing expenses, they at least have to keep an eye on the cost of living, because it's easier to track that. But the tuition, it's just gone up in crazy because there was no competition for the money. Whenever the government funds something broadly, what happens is it gets bloated because there's no competition. I can get into whatever I want to get into, and then I can go borrow the money. Okay? But as Galloway points out, here's a different study. Universities believe they're providing graduates with 80% of the skills they would need in the workplace, but employers felt graduates were only arriving at 40% of those skills. I had a really interesting conversation a couple of years back with my son, who was getting welding certification at the local tech college. Now, because of the propaganda at the college, and I'm not excluding those, he told me with a straight face, I told him there would be things to learn after he got out. And he told me with a straight face, no, you don't understand. this is one of the best tech schools in the country, and once you get out, you will know everything you need to know about welding, and you'll be ready to go and be productive. I said, no, you won't. You'll have about 10% of what you need, and that's because mostly what you need is hand strength and steadiness and things that come with doing hour after hour of welding over the course of a few years. You don't have that. You don't even have the muscle memory of welding much. You know basically your way around the equipment, and you've done a few welds on a few different kinds of materials, but you don't know the difference of ambient temperature, ambient humidity, and all the other factors that go into welding. So anyway, he's now had a steady job for about, 6-9 months. I said, do you think there was anything to learn after you got out of tech school? Oh, he said, I've learned so much. I'm so much better now. I know. And that has nothing to do with, it's because higher education can only anticipate so much. And, I got a degree in history and philosophy. So what good is that? Well, it teaches you to learn. So it's actually probably better. I think I've competed much more successfully in the world because of my reading skills and my logic skills than most people in the world. I have the definitive definition of direct marketing, or the seminal paper on direct marketing. Go look up definition of direct marketing, you'll see that. So I think it's served me very well. So these universities are doing online only, after taking the full tuition money, online only courses, and they're saying, oh, it's just the same as always. Parents and students recalibrate the value of the fall semester. Spoiler alert, it's a terrible deal. International students may decide, which is our real cash cows, that with xenophobia in America and the limits, it's not worth spending $80,000 one-year cost to attend NYU. This is the important part. This has been a long time coming, and similar to many industries, we're forced to make hard decisions. Most universities will survive, but many will not. This reckoning is overdue and a reflection of how drunk universities have become on the exclusivity and Rolexification of campuses, forgetting we're public servants and not luxury brands. And why was that? As I said, it's because we interfered in the competitive marketplace. We no longer required universities to deliver something of value, and increasingly your degree is full of courses that teach you how terrible capitalism is, how terrible your family is, how terrible traditional values are. So you get out and you start tweeting crazy stuff, and your employer says, hey, what are you doing? Or something like that, where you should know better. I'm not saying you don't have free speech, but you're in a bubble, and you come out of the bubble and you treat the rest of the world the same, you're in big trouble. Bubbles are troubles. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen is things are going to change. You can't help it. Okay, so let's get over to the PDFs. And there's a couple of good PDFs here today. Oops. Click the right thing. Okay, so I'm really short here on these, only 2 PDF topics. A data analyst analyzed 90% of 70,000 YouTube trending videos. He just looked at the trending videos, and they update this every 15 minutes. And what he was amazed at is the #1 single channel is Linus Tech Tips. That's the #1. Now, maybe because LinkedIn or YouTube likes it. He expected music or entertainment focused channels to take the top spots. And in fact, cooking channels took the 2nd and 3rd spots. Okay. He was also surprised to find that the first 6 videos, including this gem of a jam, managed to stay on the trending list for 30 days. Okay. And he said that Boy with Love was the most viewed and most liked and most commented trending video in 2019, but it was also the 5th most disliked. Now, that's probably because YouTube, if you look at my videos, I have something like 500. None are trending, I think. But the first 5 or 6 have like 40,000 views, and the rest have like 1 each. And so, you know, as always, the 80-20 happens. But also, if you look at where those views came from, they came from YouTube. So people on their search were sent by YouTube over to my direct marketing videos. So that makes sense. So the key to trending on YouTube is getting YouTube to have you trending on YouTube. That's the key, seems to be. That's what my style consultant told me. Okay, video versus, here's some things you can include. Include video versus game, new, highlights, and first. Am I doing that today? No, but I'm going to try it. I'll retool it. Scott Adams did a test where he put in like Clinton Secrets or some dumb thing on the title, and he got way more views than any, or you know, it was Trump derangement or Trump secrets. You know, he put these weird titles on him just to see what would happen, and now he's getting warnings though, so I don't know how long that'll last. And they demonetize everything he does. They don't demonetize me, but they don't monetize me either. He said the length of the title should be 36 to 64 characters. That's pretty short. Okay, I'm going to test it and see what mine are, but use tags in your videos. Almost all trending videos have tags. I have a default set of tags, which is direct mail, direct marketing, that kind of stuff, but maybe I should be more. It's a little harder to put tags in with a new YouTube video format. You got to kind of upload it, finish it, publish it, and then you can come back and find the tags. It's not obvious anymore. And show a person in the video thumbnail, which I almost always do because here I am, right? Okay, so that's enough of that. Here's a great article by Helen Edwards. Don't expect a slogan to make your brand famous. And here's a great start. Guinness is good for you. And she says down in the article, in moderation, if consumed in the proper setting with, you know, good friends or whatever, you know. She says back in the 50s you could put a slogan like this together. Now you know, we realize that alcohol should not be consumed by pregnant women, and you know, la la la, and all the taglines would be added up below here. So it's not easy to build a good advertising slogan. British copywriter Pete Matthews was asked what made a good advertising slogan. He said, if your best effort contains the words notwithstanding, there was probably room for improvement. And I would say the first place to start, if you really want to know the answer, is Claude Hopkins' book, Scientific Advertising, where he cites a 50-year history of direct mail as his foundation. This book was written about 100 years ago, and it's available at scientificadvertising.com. It's only about 80 pages. I mean, it is solid, and it will give you ideas on what makes a good slogan and what connects in people's heads. And that's why we were talking about YouTube also. Those are things that make a good clickbait line. But, you know, that isn't much help, notwithstanding. So Helen basically suggests that the reason he wasn't much help is because if you ever tried to come up with a slogan, it's really hard. It takes a lot of time, and no one's quite sure exactly how it works or what it does. And sometimes she thinks you should she suggests you should take all the lines you've got, put it into a word counter, and just take the top 3 words, or better yet, cut them all into pieces and just fish out of a hat 3 top words. Because they become more and more crazy as you get further along. And she said that'll get you slogans like "Be Your Way," which doesn't even mean anything. Right? Have it your way. It was what we had in the US, but maybe be your way. That's one of the challenges of Marketing Week, is they use British illustrations, so I don't half the time know what's going on. As you dig deeper, people will say keep it short, but it does exactly what it says on the tin. Is one of them from a bean manufacturer in Great Britain. But FedEx, we are all familiar with here, when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight. And that was their main slogan. There's nothing short about that. Heinz used beans means Heinz, which I think is funny. Okay, so back in the 50s, you could say Guinness is good for you, or a cigarette. What is it? Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. I still remember that. I'd walk a mile for a Camel. And those have been banned since I think the 60s. But you grew up in them. And so I remember it, and I went to a conference, creative session at a conference once, and somebody started those slogans, the cigarette slogans, and said these haven't been on TV for like 30 years, 40 years, whatever it was. Now it's, I don't know what, 70 years or something. I'm almost 70, so it can't be that many. 50 years. And the whole audience could shout out the answer of the, what followed. I'd walk a mile for a Camel, And they were powerful. Now, part of what makes it powerful, and she never touches on this, Helen, you should have mentioned this, was massive, massive spending. Mark Ritson would go with that. Massive spending helps position your slogan. And even a bad slogan with massive spending can help. I've been an Amway Platinum in the past, and Amway hired, some sloganeers to come up with slogans for some of their main product categories. I can't remember any of them, not one. But they were as catchy as any slogans you might hear. But trying to promote a slogan without massively invasive advertising, lift and separate, cross your heart bra. That's a good illustration of what? That I know more about bras because of that. It's Playtex, because I grew up hearing that slogan, right? Do I care about bras? No, not even a little. I hope the women in my family have nice ones, I guess. I don't even know what a nice one would be, except I know that Playtex had lift and separate with the cross your heart bra. That proves that advertising is invasive. It can get in your head without any interest in the product whatsoever. I've never bought one. I don't intend to ever buy one. So, but nevertheless, I know a slogan, and I probably know more of them if you help me out with that. They're in there, and that's because of massively funded invasive advertising that came up without regard to my level of interest. Okay? So Mars in the 50s, I guess, had a Mars a day helps you work, rest, and play. 230 calorie shot of sugar, glucose syrup, and cocoa butter. How did that ever help anybody's work? Well, but the Snickers ones are just exactly the same. They say the same message. Basically, you're not yourself when you're hungry or something. I forget what their slogan is. But the point is that you need a candy bar if you feel down. It's great. That's more of a visual slogan. Gets in your head. Restrictions are everywhere these days. Nevertheless, Snickers made it work. So some people think a blockbuster line is the only thing you need. Scant science helps support the topic of selective sloganeering. Brands have been built with and without them. Now, I would suggest this would have made more sense at the end of your article, because I read the whole thing, and obviously you make a good case for and against many brands and many versions of ways to do brands. So you kind of connect it up with the nonetheless idea that we can't figure out what makes a good slogan or makes a good brand. But many things seem to help brands. Colors, Ritson's talked about that a lot. Symbols, tunes, words that should rarely change. Why not a great slogan? Well, the problem is, what's a great slogan? And usually you don't find out until like a decade later. A good example would be "Where's the Beef" that Burger King had. And the problem with it was a really big hit. And Alka-Seltzer had a similar one. "I can't believe I ate the whole thing." I still remember that one. Both of which undermine the product in your head. Where's the beef when it's associated with a burger? Nowadays they have the Impossible Burger, so there is no beef. That's even more hilarious. But when you associate no beef with a burger chain, and they just let that die. And I think Alka-Seltzer went to, I can't believe I ate the whole thing, which was it was like, it would have been now just trending memes all over the place. But it was a big social phenomenon. And they let it die. And the next one was Plop Plop Fizz Fizz, oh what a relief it is. And it had a little catchy tune. And that one said, Alka-Seltzer brings relief. And actually, as part of a science project, I tested antacids, and Alka-Seltzer was about the best antacid on the market as far as actually neutralizing stomach acid. But I don't think it's even hardly around anymore. It certainly isn't promoted. Okay, so you've got just do it as an option. Go further, keep climbing, keep discovering, do what you can't, challenge everything, and even build. Some of those I don't recognize because it's in the UK. But here she has a really nice summary and says, here's some good slogans, basic imperatives, say it with flowers, drink a pint of milk a day. I don't think that one made it to the United States, but once you say it, it's pretty good. Phoenix, I saw you had one, but I don't remember what. It went flying by there, and you need to put it in here now, so type it in. Salience, Beans, Means, Heinz, the world's favorite airlines. I had to Google this one because I didn't even know who used it, but it was British Airways, and they used that for about 30 years. Product superiority, the ultimate driving machine, which I think is BMW, the best a man can get. Now, here's one of the problems you get into, okay? So Gillette realized that they had women using their razors, and maybe that was a problem when their slogan was so obviously male-oriented. I don't know what percentage of their product goes male versus female. They probably do know. And they decided to pivot on this, and they pivoted to basically men need to do better. Now, they still kept saying the best a man can get, but it was taken by the marketplace as men need to do better. And several commentators suggested it was written by a team of women, which is, it's okay. The Playtex ad was probably written by a team of men in those days. Sometimes it helps to get out of your own skin to figure things out. But Gillette has lost like $2 billion since, which is what I suggested. Just like the where's the beef? It's like, be more feminine for meaning the best a man can get. And they even had in the international version, they had cross-dresser in the, which is a really interesting application of the razor, because you have to get a really close shave. The closer you get, the more you need Noxzema. There's another old one. And so, they just shot themselves in the foot with the pivot. Now, Nike, who was down at the very bottom with the just do it here, a new imperative, they had to pivot because they realized that the serious athletes, which were featured in the original just do it, that overcame adversity, those were not their real market. Their real market was people who wanted to look like real athletes but didn't look like real athletes. And so then they started basically pitching the idea that everyone's an athlete, which in my case is probably couldn't be further from the truth. And one should note that further means the next logical point, whereas farther typically means distance. And I've heard PGA Tour commentators use them interchangeably related to driving distance, and they're not. And I wrote them a cute little tweet, but no one got it, so it didn't it didn't go viral. Anyway, so the just do it has been a little problematic. And you get in trouble with that, because what does it mean? It means different things through time. Okay, and so customer benefit, I'm loving it. That, I think, is McDonald's, because you're worth it. You know, again, it's sort of vacuous. Product advantage, these are actually two good ones. When it absolutely positively has to be there overnight, kills all known germs. And Lysol, Listerine was one of those. I think those are kind of the best, because they're product focused. You know, you're probably not going to get into so much trouble with the changing norms of political correctness. You know, except that it doesn't kill all known germs, and then you got to change it when it's not factual, or Guinness is good for you, might not be factual. Although if you drink it in Dublin, if you go to Dublin, or but especially Dublin, if you go to Dublin, I highly encourage you to take a connecting flight and have a Guinness as close to you can as to the brewery, and it will change your life. It did for me anyway. Okay, superior by association. Top people take the Times. The Wall Street Journal started with the Daily Diary of the American Dream. That's aspirational, right? I don't know that we have aspirational ones on here. Product authenticity, which is a lot like this one. It's the real thing. A diamond is forever. That's Coca-Cola. Disarming candor. We try harder. Avis, did a great job with that one, over and over and over. It's exactly what it says on the tin. This one, aloof. I don't even know how to say that one. Reassuringly expensive. I had to figure out that's for a beer, which I think is really funny, right? These I didn't know. We believe in life before death. Dirt is good. Anyway, Helen, nice job on giving us an overview. But if you want to understand slogans and you want to understand headlines and copywriting, get Claude Hopkins' book, one of the greatest copywriters that have ever lived. And he was making six figures in the Great Depression. Claude Hopkins, scientificadvertising.com. Got it? Search on that. You'll find it. No problem. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart. I'm John Miglash. Bye-bye.